Man, it's 404 Leland Live, Talk 99.5 with everything we're talking about in the news right now. You're paying for it, all of it. Whether you like it or not, you're paying for it with your taxes for the most part. And that means if we're right here, kind of, I guess you would say, in the middle of another tax season, you might need some help if you think you're up against the wall with the IRS or that they're going to come after you for whatever reason. Perry Cronin and Axiom Tax Resolution Group can absolutely help you resolve these matters in a professional way with the right kind of representation, because you do need an expert. You just can't take the federal government, particularly this agency, owned by yourself. Who are you going to call? Who's going to answer the phone? You'll get two different people at the same agency to tell you two different things. But if your guy is Perry Cronin and his team, they know the answers. They know the programs to help you settle for less than you owe in a lot of cases, and they can make the harassment stop and get this off your back so you can sleep at night. Because guess what? As soon as you get through this problem, there's another tax bill coming every year. It just keeps coming and it keeps piling up, and that's a horrible way to live. Get this worked out. Perry's right here local, and I love that he's one of us, and he will get this done for you in a very personal and professional way. And you're not dealing with sort of a pass through. I think some of these things that get advertised online, they may be good at what they do, but I think they're aggregating customers, passing them off to random CPAs, and I don't know who those people are. I do know Perry, and I know his track record and how he's helped people in this very audience for years and years. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group. 205tax.com is the website. It's our area code, the word tax. The phone number, if you need it, it's right there on the website, but it's 872-1100, 205-872-1100, Axiom Tax Resolution Group. All right, so we got the Iran situation, and the Hildebeest. Somebody's apparently found the moment where she flipped out. We'll get to that here in just a minute. Other things starting to pop this afternoon. We've got time for your phone calls now. I've just been on a tear, as you would expect, since we got here at 2 o'clock, but we've got plenty of time to get your thoughts on all the things going down in the world right now. But before I get to the other stuff, I wanted to share this. I had it last hour and didn't get a chance to get it in here. You can't see it, so I'll paint a picture, then we'll play the audio. You got this pilot in the background that has ejected, an American pilot that's had to eject from an F-15 that got shot down by friendly fire over Kuwait. All those pilots survived, and but she landed, and it looks like a female, so I'm going to call her a female because it's so blurry you can't tell. But the pilot lands, and immediately this guy in that full Kuwaiti, dress, that full sort of toga thing with the headdress and everything, he goes running out to help her, and speaking very, of course, fluid English, and asked if she was okay, and thanked this pilot for what is being done right now. That's just, I said it last hour, that's just a moment that you would not have expected in the middle of some horrible stuff too when it comes to any kind of war situation. But look at this moment between these two people and this pilot. And by the way, she's beaming, probably because she survived the shoot down. Here she is.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem, you're safe. You're safe, you're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
Yeah.
You're fine?
And you heard him. Thank you for helping us. You okay? He was just coming sort of to help. And again, all three of those pilots survived that. There's going to be friendly fire, especially when you got multiple nations, all these different platforms, a crowded airspace, all this stuff going down. And of course, if you remember, Kuwait is right there next to Iran, right at the tip of Iraq in the Gulf, as many of us remember from when all that happened so many years ago. Now let me see if I can find this. I'm seeing it on, let me see if I can get it up on this feed. Apparently Hillary Clinton just flipped. It was in the deposition last week, and Comer just released this video today. I was just ranting about that last hour. I have not listened to this. We'll listen to it together. Again, I don't think they got anything substantive out of the Clintons in this whole arrangement of going to depose them. I may be proven wrong. If I am, I'll be pleased. But it's just more of this Congress exercise in showmanship sometimes that's not really going to amount to a lot of anything that's going to hold the Clintons accountable. One, they're too good at evading questions and they're lawyered up. Two, these guys are not as good at asking questions. But it can provide some embarrassing moments if you want to read it that way. Let's see what this is. This is Hillary video from the deposition from last week, apparently objecting to some of the questioning.
Very much about at all.
And then how do you know Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day. Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
I'm a survivor
spent
trying to look out for other survivors, trying to
and
keep the
I
bottom
was
of it.
taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to
lost
get here today.
3,000
6
lives
months, and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I
about
have met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If you
used
have
to
an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey
I
Epstein
have
for
an
money,
email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to raise money for
I don't
you
know about
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices
Well,
at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're going to sit
if
here
you-
today
if you would
and,
let me
and,
finish.
and obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey
I
Epstein
didn't.
when
I
there was
didn't.
an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to put it. You want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look-
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
no,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish.
I don't know if she finished answering or not because that's what the clip says. All right, let's do an autopsy on that thing. Look, I got to be real. Nancy Mace is prone to histrionics and showboating. She got into a shouting match with Hillary, probably by design. If I believe it or not, I sound like I'm defending Hillary in this moment. But if Lutnick, by the way, is in the Trump administration and knew Jeffrey Epstein, and what Mace is suggesting, she was trying to build up a line of questioning where she got to the fiduciary relationship between Epstein and Hillary. And she thought she could go at it through this email that purports to show Lutnick asking Epstein for money for Hillary. Okay. All right. Just pause right there. So in Mace's mind, she's got a connection between Epstein and Hillary in campaign fundraising. To Hillary's defense, and Nancy Mace knows this, there are third parties that bundle and raise money for candidates all the time, and the candidates have no idea who the participants are. I'm not saying that Hillary Clinton didn't know Epstein. She clearly knew him. She's clearly lying and trying to avoid it. But this is a bad tactic in questioning. And then Mace got fiery and lost her credibility by yelling back at Hillary. She should have let her finish and then go back and do the follow-up gotcha kind of box question. But she decided to shout and because she knew the cameras were rolling, and it provided a moment. It's the first thing we've heard out of this video. But does it produce anything? No. You got politician on politician yelling. The country's numb to that. People largely get lost on fundraising rules and issues anyway, and it didn't make the connection. She lost the ability to make a reasonable connection between the Clintons and the Epsteins with a document that's not 100% it's guilt by association, which is, by the way, what people try to do to Trump all the time. So the tactic was bad. The approach was bad. The execution was bad. The reasoning was weak. And I don't know, Clinton looks like she's angry right there. But she's in a deposition where she's being deposed by these people in Congress. Again, we've seen Hillary do this before. More damning was when she said, at this point, what difference does it make about the dead people at Benghazi or the whole issue? She didn't even want to be in the room being held accountable. And that was damning enough. They still went on and ran her for president. And granted, she lost, epically lost, and she'll never be president of the United States, thank the good Lord above. But that little moment right there is just, and the thing is, it'll get passed around the internet because, let's look at this one. Here's another excerpt. This, I think, is a little bit of a different clip. Let's see what she's doing here.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There are
another.
photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing. If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm
can
done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's
So I would like
sake.
to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was,
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well,
I would like to take a break at this moment.
yeah,
and I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Wow, that was
Go off
more
the record.
dramatic. That was way more dramatic than we were told when it happened. So let's give it, now that I've heard it, I know what that was about. If y'all remember during the Hillary deposition, her team stormed out. Now we know Hillary also stormed out because she stood up at the end because a photo taken by Lauren Boebert, again, another showboat on the Republican side, was leaked to a guy named Benny Johnson, a blogger online, and put out all over the internet. And what that could have done, and it's amazing that it didn't happen, would have given the Hillary team grounds to end the deposition because it was outside the rules they'd agreed to. Now, I think the rules are stupid. The House committee never should have agreed to any kind of restrictions. And by the way, they should have made this woman and her husband show up in Washington like everybody else that's deposed by these committees, instead of going to her, doing it in delayed video and not letting it be public. They missed an opportunity. And I'm telling you, this whole thing is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy about the Republicans. So Boebert creates a moment there to give Hillary a chance to be indignant, which she was. Now, what can we glean from it? She didn't like being there for sure. And she's very nervous about this Epstein stuff. And it probably isn't the only moment that she lost her cool. If you read the Russian dossier on this woman, that was actually legitimate. It wasn't like the stuff they tried to peddle about Trump. Their analysis of her is that she was prone to manic fits and depression and was highly unstable in their assessment of a candidate for president here in this country. And I dare say they nailed it when it comes to this crazy woman. But the two women on the committee, and I don't know how the other men's questioning went, shot the credibility dead in the ass with the rhetorical gun by approaching it this way. And this is why Congress always fails to nail these people. If you want to see Hillary deposed, you put a skilled attorney that knows how to ask questions, wait for the answer, and do the follow-up in a measured way so that the transcript's clear, and demands a follow-up, and then re-ask the question, and you re-ask the question, and you reframe the question to try to find inconsistency. Even good reporters know how to do that. Journalists that know how to do an interview, it's not the first question you ask. They're anticipating that one. It's always the follow-up. So I'm not impressed with any of that. There's just too much else going on that's important in the world. And Comer goes and puts this video out. Maybe he had a timeline requirement when he said he would put it out, and he didn't know the war with Iran was going to break out this weekend, but he should have anticipated that, being a member of Congress and all. And so here we are now with a story that is battling the coverage of the war in a lot of ways. And Trump's team has been excellent today. Everybody that's been put forward to talk about the situation with Iran has been articulate and direct and clear to the American public, despite some of the Democrats pretending they don't understand the goal here. We all know what's going on. Trump has been winning this day. That's demonstrated in a number of ways. And here comes Comer putting this out to compete with that story. And not only that, I don't think the Republicans look too damn good right now. And maybe there'll be another clip or something that comes up here as we're doing this in real time during the show, but it doesn't. That committee does not look any better. Now I'm seeing some clips of Bubba too, where apparently he looks dumbfounded over being asked about, I think, whether or not Epstein killed himself. And you can see how tense he is too. He is not liking this questioning, at least in the freeze frame. All right, we'll get to some of that later. I guess we have no choice. It's the other developing story this afternoon. Y'all get on in here too if you want to make any comments about any of this stuff or ask any questions. Lanius Furniture Company also bringing you the show tonight. Launius, LaniusFurnitureCompany.com. Y'all, this is such a wonderful story, and I say it all the time, and I'm going to keep saying it because I really do respect how they've done things. For 92 years, this has been a brand and a name, particularly in North Jefferson County, but word got out when they built the Superstore a couple of years ago and made a store that's an acre in size, full of up-to-date, modern styles, beautiful stuff, well built from the best manufacturers in the furniture business. And they've got it beautifully displayed, expert help, a low-key sort of small-town environment where there's no pressure on you whatsoever. There's no traffic to sit in. There's no pushy salespeople that have been doing this job for 6 months and read a training manual. These are experienced veteran furniture people that want to help you pull it together, get it looking good. They'll even deliver it to you. Every now and then Reggie will call me and they've got some sales or specials on some of these brands, but any given day you go in that store, you're going to find all that selection, and the prices are good on everything all the time. I really mean that. It's Lanius Furniture Company, Launius, LaniusFurnitureCompany.com on exit 280 on I-65 in the little town of Kimberly, Alabama. Back here in just a minute. It's 424 Leland Live Talk 99.5. Y'all get on back in here. AJ, I did something today I've never done. I went to a doctor's appointment with my wife, and it wasn't any old doctor's appointment. It was Southern Skies. And you know what you have to do when you go to a cancer or screening for skin cancer? You have to go back there in a little room, take all your clothes off. So we go to our joint appointment. Man, I didn't know he was going to put us in the same room. Like, they put us in the same room. And, and I'm usually fine with that. I mean, we did just I was joking around with him. I said, she saw all this morning anyway. But then I realized that not in that kind of light, not in like a room where there's an overhead light and it's very bright and you can see everything that's going on. So, anyway, it was a good visit. Hey, the good news is I am all clear. I actually had a little spot that I was concerned about, that I was just thinking, well, that just came out of nowhere. It was kind of inside my hairline. Turned out I'm just getting old and those things start to happen, and it's not cancer. And she immediately was able to diagnose that. I love getting that kind of all clear. I like good checkups. I'm not bold about it anymore. When I was younger, man, I'd fight going to the doctor. I don't do that anymore. I go to do the checkups, and I'm encouraging you to do it too. They're so professional. This is all they do is skin cancer. I had a lobby full of folks. A couple of them are listeners, and they said plenty of y'all call them all the time and get over there. And she goes, I don't know what you're saying. And what I told them was, look, it's one of those things where there's a whole generation of us that did a lot of burning back in the day. We got out and just were ignorant about it. We told ourselves, do you remember this wisdom at the beginning of summer? You just get a big old sunburn and then you won't burn anymore. And then the next thing you know, you wind up and your birthdays come by and you're 50 years old and you're starting to get skin cancer, and you don't want skin cancer, but you age into it. The damage you did 2 decades ago could manifest into skin cancer. Y'all, there's an age range of us that need to stay checked. One, we're getting old enough to get it, but we had a whole different world back then as far as skin care and taking care of ourselves. So go get checked and get this off your list and make sure everything's good. Southern Skies Dermatology, great locations all around, and a new location coming in. As soon as they let me know that they've got everything open and ready to cut the ribbon on it and get y'all there, in another part of town that'll be much more convenient for me and a lot of y'all. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. All right, so Hillary apparently did a lot of time flipping out in this deposition. That video just came out. Got all this response online to it. I'm going to play y'all another clip. We're having to listen to this together because it's coming in hot. This is a kind of long. I think we got time to get it in real quick. This is her, and again, Hillary versus Nancy Mace.
President Clinton was impeached on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, which directly related to his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, correct?
I didn't understand what you said.
Your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, his sexual behavior.
He was impeached for several reasons, and then was acquitted in the Senate.
And your husband flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, correct?
He made several trips with different legs on the trip, as I recall.
But he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane
Yes, he
17 to
did.
26 times? Were you aware that Secret Service was dropped on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
Where they were not on some of those flights?
That is not my
So
understanding.
your understanding is that Secret Service was on all of the flights that President Clinton was on?
That is
with
my
Epstein?
understanding.
By this standard of behavior, multiple credible accusers, including Juanita Broderick, who alleged rape against your husband was disbarred in Arkansas, lost his law license before the Supreme Court, flew on Epstein's plane dozens of times, visited Epstein's island.
That is not true. That is absolutely untrue.
Well, there's documentation in the DOJ files. I'm not sure you're aware, your attorneys have told you, but Jeffrey Epstein told one of the victims to lie to investigators, to lie that Bill Clinton was ever on Epstein Island. I can provide that document to you.
We would like that document, please.
Okay.
Yeah, counsel,
I can do
because
that.
actually the files say just the opposite. Epstein himself denied he was.
These are FBI notes from an interview with a victim, and I can get you the victim number and the case number and the files. These are notes from a 302
If
interview.
you'd like those, are you going to provide those now?
I don't. That's not my line of questioning. She brought it up, but I have a
I'm
document. I
sorry,
can get
you're
you.
making a representation
Yeah.
as to the facts.
I didn't enter anything as an exhibit.
But it's factually.
Man, I guess this is a must-see TV if you want to watch the whole thing. Good Lord. Okay, back in a minute. All right, y'all. Work Trucks bringing you the show as well today. And if you're in business or you just need a basic commercially designed truck, it's Work Trucks. Some of you have nonprofits or churches where you got to move people or things around town, and Bubba and his team really go to a lot of trouble to bring this specific classification of vehicles to Alabama. They go out and search the markets for low miles vehicles. Generally, these are going to come from off lease auctions where they've been lightly used and then replaced. They get these things back here. They still don't trust them. They don't bring them back here with low miles and stick them on the lot. They go through them, which means they've been vetted. They've got 125 points. I couldn't even think of how many things. I'm not sure I could come up with 125 things to look at if I were looking the truck over, but they know what they're looking for. So they vet the trucks, make sure everything's good, and then they put them on the lot for us to go and buy at discounts because they're pre-owned. Back them with long-term warranties if you need that, financing if you need that. And if you have a current vehicle that you need to unload, they'll take that trade in and help you get your fleet upgraded or expanded. It's Work Trucks. I always call it a turnkey dealership because you've got a business to run. If you're in plumbing or electrical or one of these services, you got to focus on that expertise. You don't have time to be a truck manager. Let them get the vehicle that fits what you need and get it and keep it going. And then when you're ready to trade that one in, they'll help you with that too. Downtown Birmingham, 3rd Avenue South, Work Trucks, TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com. Man, so the news day took a little bit of a turn. We haven't had any real updates on the Iran situation in a minute, but suddenly we got Bill and Hillary Clinton being deposed. Comer decided to put that video out this afternoon, much to my frustration because we'll get distracted with some sound bites from that this afternoon. I was trying to look through some of these during the breaks. It's largely the Nancy Mace Lauren Boebert show versus Hillary as far as what people have excerpted. I'm not going to sit and trouble you with hours of video with the Hildebeest, but it is funny to see her demeanor. Apparently, Bubba was asked directly about, I don't have this bite pulled up, but he was asked about back rubs because there are pictures of him getting back rubs with what appear to be very, very young women. He just kind of laughed about it. He smiled about it. He's pervy. Hillary, for her part, and we had heard this in terms of the demeanor that she displayed that day, because we know they almost had to call the whole hearing off because she got her picture made. But Hillary was very, very combative. But then at one point, these questioners started asking her about UFOs. And I don't know what is Jermaine, Tito, or LaToya about UFOs when it comes to Hillary Clinton, but somebody got that question in there. All right, so if anything else pops up on it, we'll let you know. That hit the news. Was it a bad
question?
What do you say? What are you saying?
Remember when she was like, was that a bad one? Someone
was that a
bad?
Hey, do you think they asked Bill Clinton if he'd ever gotten a back rub from an alien?
I mean, she was unknown. I mean, is that the same? Unidentified back rub.
How old were those aliens? Were they underage aliens? Did they like pizza? I mean, apparently pizza.
Aliens named Monica.
Man, let's see. I'm scrolling. I keep seeing images. It seems to be the Hillary show because people get the hot takes out of this stuff and immediately put it online. I already played the one where she got pissed off when Boebert had taken her picture and put it out. And I'm telling you, because of the way these things are so tenuous, it's amazing that she continued the hearing in that moment because they had set up these rules. The Republicans clearly violated the rules, and any kind of technicality would have given Hillary the reason to get up and walk out. But I think they sat there and calculated that they'd already prepared for this thing. They don't want to have to do all this again. And for her to storm out and leave might be worse PR than the picture itself. So apparently her team decided to keep her in place. But this, if anything, it's comic relief in the midst of all this war talk this afternoon that we've been dealing with. I'm still scrolling here, AJ. If you see any one of them that you think's interesting, get my attention and we'll put it on. Meantime, we're still talking about the Iran situation and the war. Sadly, the way the news feeds work, the algorithms will suddenly just start picking up on all this Clinton testimony stuff and divert us from it for a minute. Let me hear this again. Let's see if it's the same I think it's the same somebody. Let's listen to see what
at
she's
Cantor
saying right here.
Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to put, you want to yell at me, that's
Oh,
fine.
this is
I'll
yeah,
yell
this
right
is the
back.
rest
Well,
of that.
I am
cat
looking out
fight.
for
It's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look.
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
No,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish answering the question, which I have a right to do. I am very sympathetic to your personal situation. I have read about it. I have seen you testify or speak on the floor about it. And I very much sympathize with not only what you went through, but appreciate your effort to stand up for survivors. I was a senator representing the people who were murdered on 9/11. Nobody lost more people than Howard Lutnick. You can say whatever you want. You can call him and have him appear before the committee. But I knew him as the man who lost the employees that he knew intimately, including his brother.
And he was the
So
go-between
I
between
work-
you and
Let her
Jeffrey
finish
Epstein
her
raising
answer,
money for
please.
you.
Let her finish her answer.
You know what? If you don't want to hear what emotionally affected me, that's fine. But that's why I know Howard Lutnick. I went to the memorial service every 9/11 after the formal service was held.
I see what you're
with
doing here,
all-
and you're
with
obfuscating
all
from
of
the
his
questions. He was
people, the
go-between
families.
between you and Jeffrey Epstein raising money for your
Well,
campaign.
you know, Howard Lutnick and I did work
Thank you. I will
together
now yield
because
to
we had a lot of
Congresswoman.
victims
Thank you.
that take.
You know, I just can't. I think Nancy Mace looks worse in that exchange. I just got to say it. I got to call balls and strikes here, and I can't stand Hillary. I've despised this woman since the 90s, but you know, she was prepared for the Lutnick question, and again, Mace approached it the wrong way, and then tried to use her victim status, which she loves to use, it's a horrible story in the background, but she's willing to capitalize on it when she needs to. Maybe that's why the Republicans let her get aggressive as sort of the face of the questioning. But Hillary picked her apart on that by acquiescing to that point, and then going back to her story about Lutnick. And then when you're losing, you know, my estimation, being in the question and answer business most of my life, I've always just sort of been in this kind of environment where you're asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of it and all that. Is anybody that filibusters, interrupts, and backtalks and changes the subject, they're the ones that are kind of obfuscating. And I thought Mace did more of that in that exchange than Hillary did, because she was prepared to answer that question that way. And she went through her history with Lutnick, which is what the original question was about. So I don't know if I had to score this, AJ, if I was dinging a little bell, I got to say it. I give points to Hillary. She was angry and combative, but only, I guess, naturally so. I don't think Mace won anything in that moment, but it produced what Mace wants. It's just the tough girl routine, because she's running for Georgia, running for governor over in the state of South Carolina. All right, so we got all that today. Man, we're going to keep having to play these clips. I'm waiting for one for Bubba. He disappeared from the clips as soon as Hillary's explosion showed up online, and we'll have that for you maybe here in just a minute. All-American medals. Let's talk about steel construction. I'm a big fan, especially having built my construction project here on my property. And the way that story goes, and I'll give a little bit more of a backstory on that, I really wanted a classic old school wooden barn, something authentic. And everybody I talked to, my friends that had barns and others, said, don't do wood. You'll hate it. It'll rot. There'll be maintenance. It settles. I kept getting all this advice about a wooden barn. And then I checked on the cost, and it was way more expensive to have a craftsman put a building like that together, timber frame kind of stuff, than the steel construction. But I'm going to be honest with you, I was a little biased against steel construction because I thought, I don't want this to look like a transmission shop out on my property. It needs to look nice. And turned out you can do that with steel and still get the benefit of the quick way that it goes up, the long-term durability of it, the affordability of it. When you look at the per square foot value of steel, you just can't beat it. And that's true of a residential application or a commercial application. People in commercial understand that, but I had a little dilemma. I'm telling you, I learned that lesson, the economic part of it and the durability part of it, and it turned out great. I think my building looks good on the property. We dressed it up with some wood trims and some landscaping, and it turned out nice, fits well on my property, and I use it every single day. If I'm home, I spend a good portion of my time doing my stuff, doing my guy stuff. So if you're looking for a pole barn, a shed, or some kind of residential application, All American Metals can pull that whole project together for you. If you were like me, I needed some design advice. I knew I needed a big central door, but what else did I need? It would have been good to have their expertise in drawing it out, making it just like I wanted it. And then, of course, the same thing applies. Of course, the bigger part of their business is commercial applications and getting that kind of stuff done for big warehouse operations, retail build outs, mini storage. They do all of it, even residential red iron. If you need red iron in your home project and you're under construction this year, y'all look at the good local folks, two families that go back to the 60s, erecting steel and walking on steel and getting that stuff done. These guys are still in their blood, and they'll get it done for you faster than the big guys, better turnaround, custom work, better prices than some of the more well-known competitors with slick websites and all that. Y'all reach out to All American if you've got a project this year. You'll love working with these guys. They're just the best. It's aa-metal.com. That's how you get them online. aa-metal.com. All American Metals. Tell them we said hey when you call them. Back in a minute. All right, y'all. Birmingham Broker bringing you the show today. Y'all know how much I think of everybody down there. They've helped my family and friends, outside of just hundreds of people in this audience over the years, get those cars unloaded. Craig and Keith and that whole team down there, they've hired a bunch of new sales guys, and they've just about sold everything everybody's brought in. There's a big demand curve right now for pre-owned vehicles. That means yours is probably worth more than you get at any other time. If it's time to trade, don't just go trade yours in and get that low ball price that a dealer's going to give you. I don't blame them. That's their business. Think about it. They can't pay you retail for your car and then sell your car retail. They'd be losing money. They got to give you some low ball offer so they can flip your car. They're doing two deals. You do two deals, separate the two, sell yours with Birmingham Broker. They'll represent you in the deal as your broker, get that car sold for a full retail price. And even minus their very modest consignment fee, you're going to net more money even than trying it yourself. I'm telling you, they got me way more because they're experts and they know what it's worth, how to haggle, how to negotiate, how to find a buyer and get that thing sold. Downtown Birmingham, 4th Avenue South, you want to go down there, I'd get an appointment first, but you roll right into the building and they will take a look and tell you what they can do for you. It's Birmingham Broker. Let them sell that car, truck, or SUV. Again, downtown Birmingham, right around the corner from Iron City, bhambroker.com, bhambroker.com. All right. AJ, is Dan still there? We'll go to the phones real quick. And then I do think I have a Bubba Clinton bite I can get to you here in just a second. What you got there, Dan, on line 4? What's up, man?
Not much. I mean, if a mutually consent back rub from an alien was to take place, would you take it?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I got a little distracted there. There's news coming at me. What you got?
If a mutually two adult age people, one was a person and one was an alien, back rub was involved, would you take it?
Oh, Lord. No, I tend to be more personal that way and not enjoy such things.
Yeah, probably not.
No, not at all.
If real quick we could talk about Iran.
Yeah.
This attack on Iran is the most telegraphed attack I think ever foreseen with American industry. What I would like to highlight though is like to basically topple the Iranian government, the U.S. had to use about 1% of their assets. So in all the crippling power that they did, the U.S. only used 1% of what they had, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, China, Asia, China and Russia and everything are kind of sitting back on this one. It's like, hey, what should we do? And, they should basically sit back and do nothing because the U.S. has not only gained allies in this situation, but they're freeing a government that has been oppressed for a long time. And, I think really with like Trump and with everybody in power, there's never been people with enough cojones to really stop this regime. Even with Reagan, Reagan doing all he did,
yeah,
he just took his hostages back. He didn't do this. And with 1% of our abilities, we basically have toppled a government after snatching Venezuela president using, high class like discombobulator weapons. The only thing stopping us from China and Russia is our hemisphere. Seriously, they're way over there and then we're all way over here. There's nothing they can do about it. Long story short.
Good stuff, Dan. You got a good view of the thing. Well, you reminded me of something too. You go back to the Reagan days. Appreciate it, buddy. Good to hear from you today. If you go back to the Reagan days on this issue, and I am defending Reagan in a lot of ways because until Trump showed up, he was going to be my president of a lifetime. And, but again, it was the revolution was in 79. The hostages got released when he was inaugurated. They didn't want to have to deal with Reagan. The Democrats tried to spin some yarn that the Iranians held the hostages just to damage Carter. See, they were coming up with conspiracy theories back then. But if you remember, there was another dynamic. And as I think back on those days, the Iraqis and the Iranians got into a shooting war with each other during that time period. And I think, if my memory serves, that war went on for like 10 years. You also had Afghanistan had been invaded by the Soviet Union. So that region If you know your geography, Iran, put Iran in the middle, Iraq's to their west, Afghanistan is to their east. So that region was already engaged in military conflict. So there wasn't any need in us taking military action. And outside the hostage situation, the Iranians had their hands full with the Iraqis. And next door, you had the Soviets in the invasion of Afghanistan. That war was protracted and went on, and the Afghanis kicked them out. The Reagan administration was largely focused on the Soviet Union, our big Cold War nemesis. Remember, the wall had not fell, and Reagan still had 8 more years to be president, and that was the front and center focus of his entire existence and being. The biggest threat to us in those days was this Cold War and the Soviet Union. So all of our eyes and efforts, including the Stinger missiles and, believe it or not, paying Osama bin Laden to dig tunnels in Afghanistan. He was a Saudi engineer that wanted to kick the Soviets out, enemy of my enemy. He worked with us. The CIA gave them money and others to dig tunnels so that the Mujahideen could hide down in tunnels and pop out with Stinger missiles and take the Soviet aircraft down. And it worked. There's a, what was the name of that movie about that Congressman Wilson? Wilson's War or something. This random congressman is the one that got that funded. And so that was the time period. We try to judge these presidents, because I've made the statement too all day that no other president had the balls to do this. Iran had not built to the threat that it is now in the 80s. Even in the 90s, you bring us forward to the 90s. In 1990, on August the 2nd, 1990, I'll never forget it. The date is burned into my memory, simply because I had just taken my very first job in television. I was a brand new kid out of school. I got a TV job. I was so excited. The day I started working, we're standing there watching the green screens, and Iraq had invaded Kuwait. And eventually that would turn into the first war against Iraq. I was assigned to cover Fort Benning, Georgia, where a lot of those troops deployed. And so we were consumed with the Iraq war in the early days of Bush. He only lasted 1 term, and then comes along Bill Clinton. Now, Iran had started really becoming a threat during the Clinton days, but there were other external threats that had a higher priority. Particularly, bin Laden had built up his forces and was beginning to do guerrilla warfare against us, and had he led us into his organization was who hit us in Somalia. His organization in the Black Hawk Down incident. His organization went after us. We were chasing him around Sudan. Bill Clinton could have taken out Osama bin Laden a couple of times, but he was afraid to do it. So he was a chicken hawk too in a lot of ways, but it wasn't really just this Iran issue. I'm trying to go back in my memory with all these countries and be fair to the various presidents. The big president that muffed Iran after they became a legitimate nuclear threat in the world, it took them a few years to build their nuclear capability. Remember, they just started in 79. They didn't get critical mass till they were done shooting with Iraq. We did that work for them and eventually deposed with Bush too, Saddam Hussein. The philosophy back then was that Saddam Hussein was keeping Iran in check, and we didn't need to do anything. In some ways, that was true. We let them just shoot each other, and they stayed distracted with each other. But in some ways, when we took out Hussein, Iran became more dangerous. Because when we muffed our exit, that was on Obama too, from Iraq, that left a power vacuum. Iran got stronger and stronger. And then their proxy in Syria. Then they developed their proxies in Yemen and in Hezbollah in Lebanon. Also, Reagan had to deal with the Lebanon situation where we had the Marine tower hit during his presidency. So this region has presented challenges for all presidents. The one president that gave Iran the closer, it started at the end of the Bush W, and it was the handoff between Bush W and Barack Obama. When Barack Obama came in with his weird worldview, with his Muslim upbringing, and started siding with the Iranians and flipped the entire script on this country. And he never could get the rest of the country to justify that. They were seen by a generation of people as the most evil nation on the planet. And they did need to be dealt with. But he took a completely different approach. He got in bed with them, sent them money, tried to bribe them, tried to make friends. That never works. It was never going to work. Meantime, they kept building their war machine, and they got closer and closer to being able to not only manufacture but deploy nuclear weapons, other conventional weapons. Their drone program is probably one of the most aggressive in the world, and they've used those to a lot of deadly destruction. They just grew and grew and grew. And I said it earlier, we should never, as a country, had let them grow as powerful and dangerous as they became as of Friday night of this week. And it was time. And as God would have it, we wound up with a leader that had the stones to finally take out these maniacs, free 90 million people in their country and the exiles all over the world, make that whole region a more peaceful place. And look at how everybody's lining up with that in the region, even now in Europe and others. The only people opposed to this that have any voice are these loudmouth, left-wing, Trump-hating, fat liberal white women.